This is Joel Smith with the ASQ Statistics Division. We're going to go ahead and get our webinar started for today. If anyone has questions while things are being presented, there is a questions dialogue as part of the GoToWebinar interface. You may type those questions in, and our speaker and myself will try to monitor that and answer whatever we can. In addition, we're recording today's webinar. No one on the line other than myself and our speaker are able to speak through the phone, but just so you know, this will be recorded and shared at a future date through the ASQ Statistics Division website and potentially on YouTube as well. So at this point, I'll turn things over to our speaker. JD is an ASQ fellow, so we're very happy to have someone of her background and her experience. She's also a Master Black Belt in Six Sigma, Certified Black Belt. She's been a Vice President of Quality and is currently Vice President of Quality at AccuRide Corporation. And today she's going to present to us on an application of something we're all familiar with, which would be quality and Lean Six Sigma tools, but in a different setting than we might normally see. So I look forward to hearing this talk. It was presented at ASQ World last year and received very well. So I'm glad that we're able to share this again with our community. So I'll go ahead and turn things over to you now, JD.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys taking your time out of lunch to join us for this. We're talking about quality and lean with a kid on the autism spectrum. That's Adam on the right-hand side. He's the kid that's got autism, and that's his sister, Alexa, on the left-hand side, holding him down. In the next hour, however long this takes us, we're going to be learning about DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control, and lean tools and how they can be applied in a personal environment to improve the quality of life. We're also reviewing the use of a Pew decision-making tool that we've used for Adam and some of the medicines that he's on. And then we're reviewing the use of design of experiments in our home environment. First, we're going to start with DMAIC. As we applied DMAIC at our home front, we had to work across our medical system to define what was impacting our son. We had to employ various forms of measurements to determine baselines and set our targets so that we could see if gains were being attained or not. We had to analyze what was going on, and we combined measurements and results to create a plan of attack for affecting Adam's symptoms. And then we worked on improving Adam's quality of life using various tools and techniques to address his issues. And then we also had to control these things so that we could hold on to the gains that we got. We've trained teachers, friends, etc., and used existing systems to grow the skills. So by using the DMAIC methodology, we were able to get a fairly good set of results for Adam. When Adam was 2, we noticed that he really didn't talk. We had some initial speech going on before he was 18 months, but about that 18-month time zone, we pretty much lost all language with him. Little eye contact. He would communicate through gestures and through crying what he did want, but it was very hard for us. He was not performing normally with kids his age. We took him for hearing tests. He had 3 of them before the age of 2, and the pediatrician said, you know, it's just a phase. He's just not ready to listen yet. He couldn't stand clothes. Clothes were something that he didn't like on his body, and it's really cute when you're 2 years old and you don't like to wear your clothes and you're running around naked. But as you're getting older, that's not as socially acceptable. The doc said that he was just skin sensitive, so we went through a whole phase of different soaps and different types of clothing materials, all cotton, all silk, you know, things that wouldn't be irritating to him. He had a hard time with diapers, just hated them. We did go through quite a bit of duct tape trying to keep clothes on this child. His body, his face was covered in eczema and rashes, and they were in all folding areas. The doc said that we really weren't bathing him well enough, that we needed to soak him in the tub longer, again, different types of soaps, creams. This resulted in further cracking his skin. He was just really miserable around this time of life, and we just weren't getting the results we needed. He was a good baby. He rarely cried or complained. Just no issues with that. By this time, we were fed up. Continuously trying with the pediatrician. He didn't understand what was going on, and we weren't getting anywhere with what we thought we needed with Adam. And so we had to go somewhere else. By the age of 2, we had no language. He still had rashes everywhere. He had a very hard time wearing clothes, keeping them on. Food passed right through him. He was voracious. He ate tremendous amounts of food, but he wasn't gaining weight. He was getting taller, but not retaining weight. So we took him to a neurologist. And the neurologist, we found out he could do these really fancy jigsaw puzzles. He's 2 years old, and he's doing jigsaw puzzles for 5-year-old, 6-year-old kids. He's lining up toys, especially Thomas the Train. And the doc said his issues are physical. Let's try to put him on some Ritalin. And without a root cause, without what was understanding what was going on with Adam, that wasn't acceptable to us either. We didn't know what this was going to solve or affect for him. Our sister-in-law, she's a teacher in Cicero, which is one of your tougher Chicago suburb environments for teaching elementary kids. And she says, maybe he's got autism. And we never heard of it. We didn't know what it was. His sister's 2 years older than he is. She was normal in all regards. Had never heard of this really from an issue for children. But autism, it's a complex disorder, and it's got fundamental issues in 4 areas. Sensory processing, and that we checked off because Adam really didn't like wearing clothes. He couldn't stand to have things on his body. We had speech and language delays. We had some speech before 18 months, and then we lost it all. Elusive social interaction. He wasn't interacting socially with kids his age. He wasn't playing with other kids. He was playing with himself quite well, with his own toys, but not with others. On the self-esteem side, he's 2 years old. We really didn't know if he had any social issues going on there or not. But 3 out of 4, it seemed like a pretty good bet that this was the issue that was going on. Autism is often accompanied by other medical issues like gastrointestinal, GI issues, yeast, which causes eczema, and ADHD. Some famous folks that have autism include Albert Einstein, who didn't talk until the age of 9, Diane Fossey with the gorilla lady, and some of these other folks. Quite a few famous people really have autism, and it manifests itself in different ways. So what are the chances? Today, autism affects 1 in every 88 children. That came out of the World Health Organization earlier this year. It used to be 110. It was then made 1 in 88 just recently. So we have a pretty good chance of having a child on the spectrum, and we're trying to figure out, well, what do we do now? As we looked at the reasons for autism, there's a lot of theories out there. Is it the shot schedule? It seemed to correlate with us. By the time he was 18 months old, we lost all language. Geez, that's when he had his last of shots. Was that it? We don't know. Is it material based? Is it in his DNA? Is it in the clothes he's wearing? Is it in the measurement that's being done? Is there a lot of specified techniques to identify and validate that a person is truly autistic? Is it in the environment? Is it the pollutants, toxins that are going on? Well, we didn't know. We didn't really have any proofs, and we only had a sample size of 1, our son. But there was a lot of theories and a lot of thoughts out there, and nothing really has been conclusively proven as of today. So what are we going to do with our child who we know has a lot of symptoms going on, and he's going to have a terrible quality of life if we don't get something managed around this? So we decided that we were going to deal with his symptoms. And if you've ever taken cough medicine to make your cough go away, it didn't cure your cold. It didn't cure the issue you had, but it made you less symptomatic so you could function better. And that's the approach that we decided to take with Adam initially. James Harrington, who's also a ASQ fellow, he's got this thing about measurement. It's the first step that leads to control. And being a quality professional for many decades, this is something that we try to get our hands around. How bad is it? Or how good is it? so that we can see what we can do to make it better. And this was something that my husband and I really focused on, and he is also an engineer. So we found an autism specialist in another state. We went out and we went to him, and this guy just took tons of blood, cut his hair, took stool samples, did cognitive analysis. Adam was checked from top to bottom and everywhere between by a guy that really specializes in autism. And as we looked at some of our measurables, we could clearly see by using the normal distribution where Adam was physiologically at compared to the normal population. We had over 24 pages of analysis and results from all of these various tests that were taken. And in the majority of them, Adam was not normal. So physiologically, his body was not where the rest of the population needed to be. And as we started to look at this, we said, well, there are ways to start affecting this so that we could get him more normal in the middle, if you will, and comparatively to the rest of the population. In his yeast was almost 3 times that of a normal adult, and in his stomach there was no presence of good bacteria to digest food. So this seemed to be causing a lot of his GI, his gastrointestinal issues. He was eating a lot of food, but he wasn't having the retention of the food so that he could grow normally. A high yeast typically causes eczema, rashes, and itchy skin, which possibly could explain a lot of what was going on, why he didn't like to wear clothes and diapers, and where his comfort level was at. In his hair samples, when your hair grows out of your head or when your fingernails come out of your fingers, you normally have trace metals in there because that's how your body gets rid of trace metals, is through your hair and through your fingernails. And when we took Adam's hair cuttings and his fingernail trimmings, he had no trace metals at all, which means that his body wasn't bringing out any of the metals that needed to be managed. So he wasn't normal there either. When we did brainwave studies, green is normal and red is hyper or over functioning. Again, we were able to actually measure this, but the colored pictures really showed us pretty well that Adam had quite a few areas that he wasn't physiologically normal. And what can we start to do to improve these areas for him? So as we began to analyze, we had all these measurements. Now what could we do to start understanding some of these underlying root causes and what could help him regain normalcy? One item that we found was a value stream map for people on the autism spectrum. I got permission from the Kirkman group to share this map, and it was very powerful for us. When you have people on the autism spectrum, they have a lot of different issues. Sometimes they have behavioral issues where they're acting out lots of tantrums. Sometimes they're not digesting their food well enough, so they have a poor nutritional profile. The food's not being digested properly, so they end up with other issues. They're not managing their metals, which we already knew Adam was having a problem with. He had a lot of GI, gastrointestinal issues. His sleep functions were really weird. So what Kirkman did was, based on these various types of symptoms that you would see, the green things were, these are the types of natural remedies that you could take over the counter to bring your body back to normal. It was very homeopathic. We're talking about a 2-year-old. I'm not going to load him up on chemical drugs. I want to see what I can do as naturally as possible to bring him back to normal so that he can be asymptomatic. Remember that cough medicine, so that I can't cure autism. I can't cure the original thing of what's going on, but I can perhaps make him more asymptomatic so that I can get language and normal growth and other things that allows him to function better as a human. So what did we need to focus on first? Adam had a lot of different issues going on, and since we had so many of them, we needed to turn on and turn off different remedies to see if we could affect the symptoms. or those responses. So we first started working with a Pew decision matrix to help select our first areas of focus. In the Pew decision test, what we did was, these were the medicines that we decided to start working with him on. We had 3 different kinds of medicines. Candex was a yeast killer. There were digestion aids to help him with his stomach, and there were metal managers that helped him get the metals out of the brain so that they could start growing out through the hair and fingernails. And what did we want to address first? Addressing his rashes, aiding with his digestion, getting his language going, enabling speech. And we weighted these things on a scale of 1, 3, 5, 7, what was really critical to us, and which of these 3 things helped in these categories. And by using the Pew matrix, it really helped us focus in first. We decided to manage the yeast over the language, because we needed him to be comfortable. We needed him to be able to wear clothes, to wear diapers. We weren't able to get him to manage language if he wasn't able to concentrate on what was being said because he was itchy or scratchy. We really wanted him to feel well first. Another Pew that we recently did, we just did this a couple months ago, was a physician Pew for him. There's a lot more doctors out there, and as more specialists have become available, we can improve Adam's caliber of care. We had our current doctor that we've been with, and we will keep going with him because he's got some skill sets that we really like. But we started looking at some other options. And we were looking at skills and expertise. Do they have references or recommendations online? Are they covered by our insurance or not? Where are they located? None of our specialists are located in the state that we live in. So that means we have either air travel or an overnight travel to get to these doctors. Can this doctor speak our language? Some of these are English isn't a first language, but also, can they talk in English? Can they truly, I mean, yes, we're engineers, but we're not doctors either. Can they speak to us in a language of what's going on with Adam so that we absolutely understand what we need to do and what difference is it going to make? So we got this, and we're actually trying a new doctor out who's in California. We're starting with him in June because it was a 6-month waiting list to see this guy. But the point is using this Pew helped us really be objective in what we wanted to do in the best care for Adam. And what would give us good results as we began to manage our yeast, there were over 20 different medicines that were recommended to help him manage the physiological symptoms. And our doctor originally recommended 1 medicine at a time for 2 weeks at a time. Well, I have a lot of training in design of experiments. I'm a master black belt. So we focused on the Pew to decide what items to manage first. And we actually ended up doing a fractional factorial for Adam for the various medicines. And we were able to run him through his med schedule in less than half a year to get some of the results we were looking for. So improve, this is one of my favorite proverbs. If you know and you do not do, you do not know. And we meet so many parents that know that their kids are on the spectrum or know that they have issues, but they don't do anything about it. It's just they don't know what to do, they don't know where to go, and they're not able to make or help their child make a difference. Within the first few weeks, actually, of trying the yeast remedies, we've got Adam wearing clothes. He's now playing on computer. He's still not talking here at the age of 3. And you can see that he's playing on a Thomas the Train website. Look at his bloods. You can see initially he wasn't normal in almost any of the categories, and now his improved physiological results are bringing him into normal. So now we're getting eye contact. We're getting much more social interaction. We're getting no yeast results now. He's managing his eczema and his rash has gone away. We then began to focus on digestion. His body did not produce the good bacteria, so he wasn't digesting food. And the food shot straight on through, which means he wasn't able to control himself from a stool management perspective. And he was getting very, very tall, but he wasn't gaining weight. So he was a real tall, skinny kid. And he was eating huge amounts of food just to pass it on through. Adam had an issue with vertical sleeping. He would sleep sitting up. He wouldn't sleep laying down. That's because his stomach hurt him. And we didn't know this because he couldn't communicate it to us. So he would vertically sleep almost everywhere. He'd pile up pillows, pile up stuffed animals. He would just sleep vertically. He'd sleep in a corner propped up against a wall. And we didn't realize that because his food wasn't digesting well, that it was causing him to have stomach aches. And we learned this much later. But now at the age of 3.5, he's got chubby cheeks. He's still very into Thomas the Train. Look at his face, how clear it is. There's not a sign of eczema on him anywhere. That's his sister behind him. She is never far away from him at any time anymore. She's just really great with him. But now we have no eczema. He's wearing clothes. We're now getting some language back. We've only got about 20 words with him. And now he's sleeping laying down. In our metals management, we worked on word processing so that he could process language, actually start to understand what he was listening to, manage the words, and then come back with a response. And what we were able to do is started picture exchange of cards, that's PECS, and we used the form of sign language at home with him. So if he wanted a train, he'd give us a card for a train and we'd give him his trains. We got to the point where he was asking us either through sign language or through cards for anything that he wanted. This forced the social interaction. We also recognized that he was learning to read the words on the cards very quickly. So before he was even speaking, he was reading. By the age of 4, now we're continuing with language processing. And in the Ann Arbor, Michigan, which is where we were at the time, we were working on the PLAY project, which is proactive learning with autistic youth. And that was done by some doctors at U of M. And it was all done in his world. So Adam's probably in that box somewhere because he liked to play by himself. And the walls are bare so that he doesn't have any other sources of distraction for him. And there's Alex watching him in the box. But he's in there. And this is where he would get playtime, and we would be crawling through these tunnels with him as well. So now we're starting to get language. And we've learned not to force Adam to look us in the eye because it's too much information for him. He needs to focus on a calm surface like a wall or a ceiling so that he can hear the words that are being said, reach what he needs to reach, and come back out. And then working on him to be able to manage his metals. We're working on his diet. And by honing in on his food sensitivities, milk was taken out of his diet, cheese was greatly reduced, and that enabled us with the homeopathic medicines that he was on, he was able to digest the rest of his foods properly, and we were able to get him toilet trained by the age of 6. Most people on the autism spectrum are not toilet trained until the age of 12, which takes that long for the gut to mature. In his metals management, we learned about something called glutathione. Glutathione acts like a bar bouncer. If you got people in a bar that are misbehaving, the bar bouncer grabs the person and ejects them out of the place. Well, glutathione does the same thing with metals. It attaches itself to a metal that's in your body and it escorts it out through your hair follicles, which grows out through your head or your fingernails. And Adam didn't have any glutathione in his body, so the metals were building up. And what they do is they build up in the fatty matter of your brain. So when you have these little teeny tiny metals hanging out in the brain, you can't talk very well because when you're trying to reach a word, your mental processes hit this little metal boulder and they bounce off and you go somewhere else. So Adam's inability to make glutathione at that point in time caused a lot of problems with his ability to get language. The doctor recognized this, and when we got to this phase, we were able to introduce glutathione into Adam's body. It goes on as a cream, so you rub it into the skin. And we were very lucky because then Adam's body got kick-started and he started making glutathione on his own. Of course, we needed to kill all the yeast first because yeast eats glutathione. So we had quite a circular issue going on here. But once we got the glutathione levels upgraded in his system, we were now getting full sentences. And Adam's now able to follow 2- and 3-step requests. He's still autistic. He still has huge social issues, but now he can talk. He can tell you what he needs. He can tell you what his issues are. He can ask questions, and he can obey simple commands. He's now able to hold a conversation for 3 or 4 turns. And this is compared to no language. He had no language at all by the age of 5. And now within a year, we're getting language out of him, primarily due to the glutathione response. In his brain waves, you remember the first time we showed you, they were pretty much red. We went through an experimental brain exercising program in Auburn Hills, Michigan, for autistic people. And after the study was done, you can see now that his brainwave patterns are much more normal. He's not completely normal yet in all areas, but we got more than 1 year of social growth within a 3-month time frame by using this brain exercising program. At the physical age of 12, today, Adam is now socially about 8 to 9 years old. That's our guess. So we've gone through define and measure. We've done a lot of analyze. We've done some things that have gotten him some improvements. And now we want to be able to hold on to these gains. How are we going to control the things that he has in place? And Harry Kissinger said this nice, each success buys an admission ticket to a more difficult problem. And as Adam gets these successes, he's on to the next phase, and he's a couple of years behind other kids his age, so it's harder for him to get caught up. But with these foundations in place, insurance in the United States covers nothing that's over the counter. And even with the new bills that have been passed in some of the states, over-the-counter medicines still are not covered. He's on more than 30 homeopathics and natural medicines daily, and that keeps him very, very asymptomatic. We review his bloods now annually. He's still growing. He's 12 years old. So physiologically, he's going to be going through a lot more changes soon. So we're keeping a strong look at how these bloods are doing. He's in a full 6th grade class. He's fully integrated. He's not pulled out for anything. But there is a paraprofessional teacher in the room with him. The current challenges that we have is while he's still asymptomatic in many areas, he doesn't socialize well. But he will talk to you now if he's spoken to. He will initiate some conversations. You can see this is a marble game that he got. He's very much into his marbles. His coordination is off with moving balls. So he doesn't play sports very well. And for a 12-year-old, that's a hard thing. He's not into baseball. He's not into football. Soccer's out. So it's tough for him to do anything sports-like. And conversationally, he's pretty much done after 3 to 4 sentences. He just walks away. Some people think that's rude, and it is. So he's learning that he has to learn how to exit himself from a conversation. A different thing is that Adam is a very concrete thinker. He's very literal. One day we went to a park, and there was another man with his family there, and he had a child, and he was dragging the child, and he's screaming at this kid. And we don't know what's upsetting here. But my husband made a comment to me. He says, boy, that guy sure got up on the wrong side of the bed. And we kind of went ourselves to a different area of the park. And later that night, at the end of the day, Adam's getting ready for bed, and he's just standing in the middle of his room, and he looks at me and says, Mom, what side is the wrong side of the bed? And he's trying to figure out, because he took that very literally, is there a wrong side of the bed that you can get out of that makes you so angry? And that made us think that we have to teach Adam all of these different idioms and these different sayings that we have in our English language. And there's a game out there called Befodium, B-E-F-O-D-I-U-M, I believe. And it has more than 35,000 idioms in it. So we got that game for Adam, and he's made it a personal project to read and review and understand all of those idioms. He's pretty far way through it right now. But now he asks for clarification of what it means, and we get through it. Some really cool things that he does is he reads at a college sophomore level. He's a really smart kid. And now he's just beginning to comprehend what he reads. He's almost at age level in comprehension. He's memorized 3 full dictionaries from cover to cover. I don't know how anybody can do that, but he does. He helps his teacher with spelling because he can spell anything. Math is his favorite subject, although he's just grade average in math. He's not a super performer in math, but it's something that he really enjoys. He can name all the voices for the cast of SpongeBob and Scooby-Doo. He can stand and balance on an exercise ball. So think about this. I've got a 3-foot-tall exercise ball, and this 12-year-old kid can stand on top of it and balance perfectly well, just like a circus performer. But he can't kick a moving soccer ball. So there's some things that are very different in terms of skill sets and core competencies that he has. And he's a large cook. He likes to cook his own foods. As we continue with control, we partner with our school very carefully, and we have to keep ourselves educated. These are 2 of the strongest books that I have found out there. I Need Help with School. This helps you write what's called an IEP, an Individualized Education Plan, for any student with special needs, but also the hidden curriculum. It really puts into the English language all the things that neurotypical people like us take for granted. Personal space, and how to know when someone's frustrated. People on the spectrum have a very hard time recognizing those social cues, and the hidden curriculum really helps you do that very well. It's a very nice book. We help to write the individual education plan for the school, and if you're familiar with control plans in the automotive or military industry, it is exactly that. It is a control plan. So the IEP, we're very good at writing these because we've done a lot of them at work, and so now we do them for the school. But for the school, it's a legal document, and it compares the child's skills to the state requirements, and then it outlines a training plan to address the gap. And the school is required to close that gap or do everything that they can within the ability of the child to make that happen. During the summertime, and only in the United States, can you go 3 months off without being forced to learn anything. That doesn't work for a kid on the spectrum. So what we do is we have a daily check sheet that he has to do. And with this daily check sheet, he gets points. And at the end of every week, on these points, he gets a positive reinforced prize. So a special food that he likes, or somewhere that he likes to go, or an extra hour on his games. And he's very motivated to positively get these things done. This format actually comes out of the I Need Help with School book. Again, in the summertime, we work with him all summer. He has tutors that preview the upcoming content. So when he gets done with 6th grade, which he'll be done in 6th grade in a couple months now, he'll have 3 months where we will start prepping him on all of the 7th grade content that he needs to know. And he'll go to school 4 hours a day, every day during the summertime. This gives him it helps us understand where he's going to struggle with new content, but it gives him a preview of the grade. And he ends up starting the grade ahead of his peers for the most part. So that helps him get a level footing with the other kids in the classrooms that he's in. So what we've done is we've applied DMAIC at the home front. We worked with the medical system through the various doctors until we got it figured out to identify that autism was impacting our son. We had a whole lot of measurables that we were able to use. The blood results, the brain analysis results, the yeast, all of these things to see where he was at performing, and then to let us set our targets to see if we could get him there. We analyzed by going to various conferences using that value stream map that came out of the Kirkman group, and we were able to combine the measurements and the results that we got to create a plan of attack and applied the medicines and the homeopathics, the over-the-counter medicines, to see if we could physically get improvements. We used designs of experiments repeatedly, and we used the Pew diagrams to help us focus on what was first. As we executed the medicines and we saw these physical improvements, we validated that the improvements were being maintained. We could see it in Adam's behavior, we could see it in his language, we could see it in his school performance. To hold on to the control, we've trained the teachers, the friends, the friend and support system that we have with him, so that we could continue to build on the skills that he's got, but also to hold on to the gains. And as we've gone through this process, we've learned that ability is what you're capable of doing. There's some things that Adam isn't going to be able to do, but we won't really know until we fully explore that. Motivation determines what you do, and we try to really focus on positive motivation so that he continues to want to try. Attitude determines how well you do it, and perseverance determines whether or not you get it done. And this is kind of a thing that we use in our house to say, you know, where are we on this? Can we do it or not? How badly do we want to do it? And can we persevere? This is Adam. This is the picture that he wanted to show everybody. And he's 12 years old, and he's been rocking and rolling, and he's doing a great job. And these are some of the sources and ideas that we've used to help us as we've navigated ourselves through this journey. The Kirkman Roadmap out of that Kirkman company we find very helpful. We get a lot of help and support from the Autism Society of Michigan, as well as the Autism Speaks organization. The I Need Help with School from Rebecca Moyes is a good reference book. The Hidden Curriculum from Garcia. Different Like Me is a book for showing you on other people that are on the spectrum. And we've written our own book on this called A Sample Size of One, which pretty much goes through this presentation with additional details. And you can find that at asamplesizeofone.com. We don't take any profits from the book. They all get redonated back into the Autism Speaks organization. If you'd like to contact me, please feel free to do so. I've got my cell phone number on there for you. You can contact me at my personal email address at jd.marhefko@frontier.com. And with that, I'd like to know if there's any questions or anything that I can help people answer.
Yes, thank you, JD. And by all means, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to type those in the questions portion of the GoToWebinar interface now. Otherwise, if we don't have any, we do really appreciate the talk. It's very interesting. As you said, the prevalence of autism is becoming so great that I'm sure most of us know at least one person, if not knows the person directly, knows someone with a child who's autistic. So it's very interesting and something that I think all of us can relate to. So we, as I said in the beginning, do have this being recorded, and we will be sharing that. So it usually takes us a couple weeks to get it posted on the website, but we'll get on the ASQ Stat website as soon as we have everything converted and uploaded to that site. And I think that's something interesting for anyone to share with those that they know affected by this. So doesn't look like we have any questions, so I'll just say thank you again, JD. Really interesting talk, and we really appreciate you giving today's webinar for us.
Okay. And if anybody does have any personal questions, please feel free to send me an email or call.
All right. Thanks a lot, and have a great day, everyone.